All right, guys. So it seems as though we'll go with the 10 students we have. So let's go. Conflict management, back on track. Five styles of conflict management. And Five styles of conflict management. So this is a nice summary slide of how, as managers, you want to look at conflict management. Your vertical axis looks at how assertive you are in managing your conflict and resolving your conflict. And your horizontal axis tells you how cooperative you are in resolving your conflict. And immediately you can see the avoiders are those that are very low in assertive. They're not assertive at all, and they're not cooperative. So they want to avoid your conflict altogether. Above avoiders, you have the competers, those who are very assertive and not cooperative. And you can think of in your own life, you can think of individuals right now, or you can also think of groups and bodies and organizations that have these characteristics that we're talking about. So the competers, they 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 don't care to come. They don't care to cooperate with you. They want to assert their position and assert their point in getting the conflict managed. In other words, the competitors usually you want. I may want to use a word like they sort of bully their way through the conflict, right? But not all the time. Okay. Um, then on the right of avoiders, you have the accommodators. They are highly cooperative and they're not assertive. So the accommodators, you can tend to say that they kind of get taken advantage of, in that they willing to give in to everything, and that's the accommodators. And above accommodators are the collaborators, where they assert themselves and they are very interested in being cooperative, but they're very assertive as well. So that's the collaborators. And then in the mix of all, and to use Jahil's comments initially in class, the compromisers, they have a fair mix of competing, avoiding, accommodating, collaborating. All right. So this here is a nice summary slide to see all of your options available to you, all five options available to you when managing conflicts. So we'll go into each of them individually. Accommodators. So remember, the accommodators are the ones that are highly cooperative but not assertive. They usually give in to conflict. They acknowledge that they make a mistake or decide it's not a big deal. They put relationships first and ignore issues and try to keep peace at any price. Now, these are important points to note when you look at accommodators. They put relationships first, they ignore issues, which may not be a good thing, and they try to keep the peace at any price. Again, that may not be a good thing always. This can only be effective. An accommodating response can only be effective if the other party has a better plan or a better solution. All right? So that's accommodators. Avoiders are, as we would want to call them, the introverts. We would want to call them those who, they definitely don't want no conflict, no fight, no problems. So they avoid conflict generally and are generally unassertive and uncooperative. So they don't want to cooperate with nobody and they don't want to assert themselves. So they avoid conflict entirely or delay the response time and voicing their concern. Um, it's not a good long-term strategy to be an avoiding person or avoiding group in conflict. All right. So, and especially, it can especially be useful in an environment that is highly emotional. So I can immediately think, some of you may be able to relate. You may have someone passing in your family, a grandparent or parent, or some very tragic, unfortunate event, and there are some conflicts that are occurring, but because of the highly emotionally charged environment, although you may be the one that is expected to lead through the family in this particular time, you want to take an avoiding approach for short term, because it can allow emotions to just allow themselves to fizzle out and to get expressed. All right, so that's avoiding. Next, we have the collaborators. These persons are their collaborators are just above accommodating. They are highly assertive and they are highly cooperative. Now, you might want to default to this position if it is you are a strong leader, if you're a strong manager, if you have high amounts of confidence, you might default to using the collaborative approach very often. You assert your own view while listening to others. You always seek a win-win situation, and that's why I'm saying this, because as managers, you I'm teaching you to try always to get a win-win situation in everything that you do, whether be it is with competition that you're dealing with, whether it be with your customers that might be a difficult customer. You always want a win-win situation. So that's why I'm saying generally you would be defaulting to collaborating often, but it's not always the only and best solution. Um, right? Of course, you identify the underlying concerns of the conflict and you create a space for multiple ideas. It requires effort and time from both parties. So, being a collaborator, you are now providing a nice room for multiple ideas to come to the fore. You are listening, and and they are listening to you as well. So it might, it might produce some really good results, especially if you have the time for it, to brainstorm through and to to hash through all of these different ideas that are coming to the fore. And then you have the competing approach, as I said, which is just above avoiding. And the competitors usually they don't care about the other teams or the other groups' issues and concern. They are just ready to assert themselves and not cooperate at all. They are willing to do it at the other person's expense. All right. I know this might trigger some of you to think about your own personal um, life experiences of where you would have been in a conflicting situation. Yes, I'll come back to you because when you are in a conflicting situation and you have someone who's taking this competing approach, they do not care about you. They care about themselves only. They want a win-lose approach, and that win must be them, and that lose must be you. They do not rely on any cooperation, and it can actually have a role. Competing approach does have a role for when there are emergencies and when time is important. So the competing approach isn't always written off as bad. There are times when you can use it. And let's see what Vikash is saying. Reminds me of a time when I was working with my dad, and a customer was extremely demanding for a discount. In the end, we asked the customer to leave. Okay, Vikash, that's interesting. Um, I'm assuming that you asked the customer to leave because the discount that he was asking for was an unreasonable value, or was it we can have some discussion here. Was it, let's just say, for example, the price of the cost you are selling the item for $10, your margin on the item is perhaps $3, and the customer is asking for a discount that would now take you down to selling it to him for 7.25. Is that the case? Or is it that the behavior of the customer demanding the discount was such that um, they didn't seem to have an understanding about your position, and they want this amount of discount? Which is it, Vikash? You say the customer was extremely demanding, so I'm assuming it was his behavior. It's a low margin. We did give a discount. It's just an attitude that was very disgusting, to put it mildly. Okay, all right, good. So yes, and Vikash's example is one that will happen from time to time, that you will be engaged in a conflict with someone who really is looking to win only, and you are low, and you are going to be on the losing end. And you have to ask yourself, how much of this is worth it? Is it necessary to now completely bend over backwards for this person, for this other group? And is it okay for us to completely lose out on this part of the transaction for the sake of the other person? And most of the times the answer to that is no. But there are times when it may very well be worth it to be engaged in such a conflict and lose. And what can be an example? What can be an example, using the same a business as an example? What can be an example, guys and gals and guys, of a competing approach of conflict that it is better to take the lose approach and allow the other person to win? Remember, I said it's when there are emergency situations. So, where you may not have time, you don't have time to discuss ideas and look at things. It's an emergency situation. So, give me an example of a setting where it might be best to accept a competing approach where the other party just wins and you lose. Anyone? Come on, get those brain cells going. Get those brain cells going. You have so many live examples right now. What the other party? The other party is the customer. No, the other party is any other party that you can think of in any situation that you could think of, but you'll have to explain to me. You still want the customer to purchase the product, so it may be better to give the discount rather than lose the entire sale. That's okay, Kavita P. I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, but we're just looking at Vikash's example here. It's already a very low margin, and whilst you want to, yes, get the transaction, get the sale, make the magic happen, you still need to ensure that you are not giving away your product. Um, when taking orders like food or service and unable to provide it within time. I don't understand what you mean, Vikash. So Kavita P, you yes you want the customer, yes you want to make the sale, yes you want the magic to happen, but you remember, you as a business, you have to still be able to make something, unless you're giving it away at selling price, then you're being charitable. Um, Vikash, a damaged product, so you provide a discount. No, that's not what I'm getting at. That's still within um, negotiating a little differently. That's you're telling the customer in advance, well, here is a damaged product, or a damaged item. It still has function, and we'll give you a discount. But that's not what I'm trying to get at. I'll give you a few more seconds for someone to give me a suggestion. Samantha C, using the same example as Vikash, but you accept the transaction due to the individual may be a relative of the owner and can I didn't even think of that. I didn't even think of that, but wow, that is interesting. Yes, it might, yes, that actually might exist in today's world. Um, so as the worker, you are saying that the customer is a relative of the owner of the organization. So the customer is asking you for this unreasonable discount and being rough about it simply because they know the owner. And yes, I understand that those things do happen today. I didn't think about that, but um, it will affect your job if you don't give in. Or that sounds like a job that you don't want to be in, right? That does not sound like a healthy organization. If you have customers who, because of their relationship with the owners of the organization, are now going to expect you to give them something literally almost for free, I think you will get in trouble with your boss, who is the owner of the organization, if you are if you are giving away his product and services for free to family members unless it's stated in a manual somewhere that family members or these list of family members get an item for free. So I get your point, but that's a conflict that's a strange one. It's a strange one. Well, there are some individuals who believe, yes, Samantha, see, I know. There are some individuals who do feel that they are entitled, but remember, if you're running a for-profit organization, you certainly cannot give away items that are intended for sale. All right. So that's not what I was looking for. Anybody else want to make a gander? All right. So what I was trying to get at is nobody else, right? I was trying to get at in the unfortunate case of a robbery. You are the manager. Someone is coming in and threatening your staff, threatening you, threatening your organization. They want what they want. They want cash money, valuables, etc. You have to take the loose approach and allow this person to win. Time is against you. You don't have the time to sit down and negotiate with them. Say, hey, boy, we now open or we do have nothing in the drawer. No, you don't. You don't have that time. You don't have that negotiating ability at that point in time. Even if I, Jahil, well, Jahil, if you have a gun, then it's going to give you some negotiating room, right? It's going to give you some negotiating power. But that is a different discussion altogether because now you're going to get into the details of security, right? So yes, even if you do have a gun, you may not have to take the win-lose approach. Um, so that's a separate discussion. But I'm talking about the average individual that sometimes even if owners and staff members do have guns that they're probably asked to resolve it peaceably, meaning someone comes in, it's a security threat, you give them what they want, and they leave, and you are left in peace. So there's no trauma of anyone getting shot, there's no trauma of the place getting ransacked. You facilitate this competing party with their robbery and let them leave so everyone remains safe. This making me think of the South Park episode about Yelp reviews where they threatened the restaurants with bad reviews. Really? I was not aware of this. Yelp was threatening people, or wait, people were threatening restaurants to put bad reviews on Yelp just so that they can get free meals. Now that is extortion. That's a type of extortion. So that borders on illegality and certainly does not conform to norms of good morals. So that is horrible. That is horrible, and that should not be encouraged. And that's not what we're talking about. Yeah, well, I mean, it would put the restaurants in a real vulnerable position. Okay, well, I have to give these people free meals so that I get good reviews. It shouldn't be persons telling the restaurant owners, give us free meals or else we will put up bad reviews. It should be the restaurants are encouraging, and all companies do this with their products who have products. They come in and they give away their products to persons who can endorse their brand. They give away their food and their wine. They have wine tasting and they have liquor tasting and they have food tasting events. Even right now, there's a restaurant week going on in the country. I think it's still going on, where they encourage persons to come in and enjoy their food maybe at discounted rates to promote their brand. So it should not be persons forcing the business. It should not be that at all. You can't force the business to give out free stuff in order to get good reviews, or in order to dude, that's wrong. That's a type of extortion. And as we're talking about that, can you name a company that you are aware that that has built a very strong brand because they were literally giving away their product to a certain group of, I don't want to give it away. They were giving away their product to a certain group or category of persons in the world that was simply free promotion of their brand. They were giving them, perhaps they were giving them cash too, for all we know, but they were certainly giving them. I know there is a what? They were certainly giving away their product to a certain category and group of persons to get their brand out. Who Leandra? Who Crocs? Okay. Who was Crocs giving away their product to? I'm thinking of another company, another prominent company, or another. It's an electronic company to give you a hint, and a company that deals with electronics. Big hint. So, Leandra, who was Crocs giving away their products to? Which group of persons they were giving away their products to that was meant for promotion? Leandra, Samantha, there was a local company that gave to free mass to publicize their company. Okay, all right, yeah, fine. You're giving out free stuff, which maybe have a label on it, or you can give out something and you have donated by. Yes, yes. I know there was a shoe company that was giving a shoe to poor people in Africa when you buy a pair, but I can't remember the brand. Yes, I do remember that brand. Yes, I think it's Skechers. I think it's Skechers. Vans? No. Toms? No, no, no. Was it really Toms? Are you all confirming it was Toms? Yeah. Okay. All right. I thought it was Skechers. All right. All right. Okay. Toms. Toms. All right. Fine. What's the name of the company I'm looking for? The name of the electronics based company was giving away its product, and this was part of its marketing strategy. All right. We're taking too long. The answer is Beats. Beats by Dr. Dre. Beats by Dr. Dre. They were giving out their headphones to celebrities all over the world. So celebrities got these really good headphones for free. They may have gotten some financial endorsements as well. But by having these celebrities, you see them all over wearing these headphones. That in itself was now encouraging persons to use it because it gave the assumption, well, if these guys are using it, people who look up to these celebrities, then clearly it must be a good product. So that was just to answer Vikash's statement about Yelp. So we on to now the compromisers. They are moderately assertive, they are moderately cooperative. Compromisers, however, get a lose-lose approach in that one party loses some, the other party also loses some. It's a temporary solution. It can be an easy way out when you need more time to collaborate and find a better solution. So you see right there, you see it speaks about the other solution for the conflict management, which was collaborate. So you can partially compromise until you can collaborate and get a win-win. Now, there are some groups and organizations that might partially compromise before they can get a compete a competing approach, and you have to be careful. You have to look out for these things as managers. All right. So we spoke about five approaches to conflict management. We spoke about avoiding, competing, collaborating, and compromise and collaborating and accommodating. Sorry, yes, right. So which is best? Which of these approaches is best? And the answer is there is no best way to handle conflict. Each conflict is different and requires a different response. So therefore, one must always look at the cause of the conflict. One must always look at the time that is available to resolve the conflict. One must look as to how expedient or how emergent, how much of an emergency it is to resolve the conflict, and then you can now apply the best approach. So we're looking at the cause of the conflict, the time you have in which to resolve the conflict, and how much of an emergency the conflict is before you can apply the best approach. And I'm reminding everyone, there is no best way to handle conflict. You cannot always be a collaborator. You cannot always be an avoider. You cannot always be a competitor. You cannot always compromise and you cannot always accommodate. All right, so remember, two heads are better than one that's collaborating. Kill your enemy with kindness, accommodating. Split the difference, compromising. Leave well enough alone, avoiding. And might makes right, competing. All right? In preventing conflicts, assess positive and negative personality traits of persons involved. Of course, you have to assess the different personalities of the groups and individuals you're dealing with. Do you have an aggressive type, submissive type, assertive type? Assess if people are introverts or extroverts. It does not mean that if you assess this group or this person to be submissive or an introvert, that you are now going to force your might on this individual or this group and use a competing approach. You are doing this solely so that you would know where you stand when addressing the conflict. Review past conflicts. If you don't learn from your history, you are bound to repeat it. Review past conflicts. Communication skills of those involved. Read body language of participants. And I always go back and ask my class, tell me what about communication? Communication is about two things. I wait for the answers. You always spell it out for me. I'm asking you again. Communication skills in preventing conflict. Communication skills generally. Try to reduce conflicts. Realize that communication is colored by personal experience, fears, beliefs, and prejudices. You may have your own religious belief, you may have your own fears, your own values, but you must communicate objectively to an individual or to a group about the conflict at hand. Try to be neutral. We plan the timing and the place of the conversation. Remember, I said nobody's answering about communication. Come on, guys. Communication is communication is two parts, and what's the waiting on both parts? Plan the timing and the place of the conversation. Let it be a place where, and all of these things are tied into strategy. If you are taking the competing approach, that time and place of that conversation could now put the other party backed up against a wall, and that might be strategically what you want. So I'm saying this to you to think strategically. I'm not saying for you to do this and to now force your way on groups and force your desires on groups and individuals. But I'm saying strategically at times it may be necessary. Realize that outside stress may add to confrontation. Eliminate and reduce external and internal interruptions. Oh, precious. Thank you. Thank you very much. Verbal and nonverbal 70-30. Thank you very much. Manage your language use. Neutral versus loaded words. Neutral versus loaded words. Don't ask a question like, think about this. Hey mom, which is your favorite child and why is it Alexis? That's a loaded statement. All right? So try and use neutral words. Reduce technical language when you are discussing something with another group that you are going to resolve conflict. Do not use too much of jargon. Do not try to sound too technical. Be simple, be neutral. Use simple language. Allow for cultural differences in language. Allow for cultural differences generally. You may be having conflict with someone from a different geographical location with a different culture. You have to be aware of this as an international manager. Words may have different meanings for different people. Ask them to elaborate. And I know, for example, um, some people might say use a phrase that might have a certain amount of meaning, like for example, I really stressed out, and you might that for that person really stressed out just mean I'm taking a little bit of worries, but I'm okay. But when you're hearing this from the outside, really stressed out mean that things are real going bad with them, something wrong. So understand that words and phrases have different meanings for different people, different intensities, and ask them to elaborate. And some aids to communication. Listen actively. Actively listen would mean, what does actively listen mean? Listen attentively without distraction, without butting in and giving your opinion. Listen, just purely listen. Listen and absorb. Relax. Observe body language. Develop an interest in other interests. Ask for clarifications. Plan what you're going to say. Determine the best place and the best time for the conversation. Tailor your communication to the group or the individual that you are going to discuss with. Your choice of words for your subordinates should be different to your choice of words for your superiors. If you have to resolve a conflict with your subordinates, has to be a little different to a conflict with your superiors. Conflict is unavoidable, and it is will always happen because of interaction amongst workers. It's a complex organizational relationship. Conflict is a healthy sign and is not a negative process. Reminding everyone again, conflict is a healthy sign and does not is not a negative process only. It reflects dynamics. Poorly managed conflicts will get poorly managed outcomes. Well managed conflicts will stimulate competition, identify and accept legitimate differences, and can be a powerful source of motivation. All right? So, conflicts are opportunities. Conflicts are opportunities to help your team increase in capacity, to help diversify your team's knowledge, to help diversify your knowledge as well in understanding a different perspective. Conflict is going to give you practice in finding creative solutions for problems within a certain time period, finding creative solutions within a certain emergent situation. So, conflict is a good thing. So, your take home points are conflict is unavoidable, conflict is a good thing. There's no best way to resolve conflict. Conflict must be identified as what is the source, how much time you have, analyze the different groups, analyze the groups involved in the conflict, and ask is the conflict, does it need to be resolved because of an emergency situation? All right. So that's our lecture today, guys, for conflicts. Alexis, I hope I answered your earlier request on how do managers resolve conflicts. And we will again review this next week before we go on to our other lecture, which will be project management. And I now invite questions and queries. I'm hearing lots of rain outside. I don't know if it's raining by you guys as well. Is it raining by everyone? Or is it just by me? Jahil, I didn't hear much from you today. Are we good so far? Did you all understand the concepts that was discussed in your lecture? Gals and guys, are we good? Are we okay? I have to start correcting your first in-course exam. Hopefully I can get that started tonight. Samantha C. Okay, no questions. All right, folks. If there are no more questions, no issues, no queries, I will see some of you tomorrow. And if I don't see any of you tomorrow, I will see you all next week. All right, so have a good day. And again, I hope the concepts were well received and you all review the lecture, please. All right, so have a good evening. You all take care. If there's anyone who's doing any questions right now, I'll leave the chat open while I end the stream. And of course, there's WhatsApp as well. So see you all. Take care.